So I'm going to discuss these four concepts, okay? Economies of scale, diseconomies of scale, which are two sides of the same concept, economies of agglomeration, concepts of threshold and range, and specialization. So what is economies of scale, okay? Now, so let's imagine there is a student at NIT Patna who's doing a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, okay? So let's call him Anil. Okay, Anil gets a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and after getting a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, he is looking for a job, and he finds that after a degree in mechanical engineering from a good place like NIT Patna, the only jobs that he is getting is like some job in a private company where he gets 15,000 rupees a month. Okay, which I believe is not very high, right? 15,000 is not very high. Maybe 20,000, maybe 25,000. I believe many engineers are working for those kinds of salaries now, right? And then he says, do I really want to do this kind of job in mechanical engineering? And on the other hand, so he's considering that. And on the other hand, right through high school, he has known that he really likes to do some cooking, okay? And especially one aspect of cooking, he's discovered that he really wants to figure out and really likes to bake bread, okay? And he looks around, and he's living in Patna, and he looks around and he says, there is one variety of bread that is here, and there's this other variety of bread that is here, but they're not really good varieties. He's gone to some places, he's gone to Bombay, and he's gone to Bangalore, and he's seen that there are certain bakeries there that produce very good quality bread, and they make only bread, and there's a huge market for it. So he says, and I'm making this up, okay, I don't know if Patna has bread or not, or there's demand for this. So he says, okay, I'm going to create this new bakery, and I'm going to make this new bread. It'll be called Anil's bread. And this bread is going to be made with organic everything. Organic wheat, organic this, organic that, everything is going to be organic. And he'll advertise this as organic, and he'll start a bakery somewhere in a good place in Patna, and so he decides. So he looks around for a place, and he finds that he can rent this decent shop, a nice looking shop in a place, let's say 1,000 square feet, and per month the rent for that is 20,000 rupees, okay? And I don't know if it's reasonable, okay? I'm just making these numbers up. So 20,000 rupees for 1,000 square per month for 1,000 square feet of space. And then he says, I need a commercial baking oven for this, okay, to make bread, a commercial oven. So he sees if he can buy it, and he finds that it will cost about 10 lakh rupees to buy one. So he says, I can't buy one, let me see if I can rent one. And he finds that he can actually rent one. And this rented one costs about, let's say, 5,000 rupees a month to rent this commercial oven. And this commercial oven can make or bake 1,000 loaves per day. 1,000 loaves of bread. One loaf of bread is one loaf of bread, right? It can make 1,000 loaves of bread per day. Then he figures out, okay, he asks some people, does some market research, and he gets this idea that he can probably bake 200 loaves a day and he'll be able to sell it, okay? So based on his market research. So he says, okay, today is the 1st of April, and I'm going to start this bakery on the 1st of June. He does his market research, and he starts advertising. Local newspaper, he starts advertising, and on, many places he puts this notice saying that Anil's Bakery, opening soon, organic bread only. How much does one loaf of bread cost? 100 rupees? If you buy from the market? 30 rupees. 30 rupees. So he says, okay, I'm going to sell it for 100 rupees. And everything is organic. It's not going to be mass produced. Everything is organic, special brand. 100 rupees per loaf of bread. So he decides that. And he advertises. And it has to be made fresh. So June 1st, he goes and buys all the wheat and the flour and all the ingredients for 100 loaves of bread. Brings it to his bakery on May 31st. June 1st, he comes to his bakery store at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then he starts mixing all the stuff, and he makes enough of the dough to make 100 loaves of bread, and then he makes between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock he makes 100 loaves of bread. And he puts it in a case. 9 o'clock he opens the store, and then all this advertising has happened, all his friends come and other people come. And he's selling it for 100 rupees, okay? You can buy it for 30, but this is like organic bread and all that. He opens the store and he's selling it for 100, and he was expecting that these 100 loaves of bread will be sold by 5 p.m. or so. But these 100 loaves of bread are sold by 10 o'clock in the morning. There's so much demand for this, they're sold for 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay? Next day, he decides, you know what, for 2nd of June, because the demand is so much, let me just increase the production to 200 loaves. Okay? So, he goes and buys all the ingredients for 200 loaves, and he bakes 200 loaves on the 2nd of June and he puts it for sale. Okay? The second day also, he's selling each loaf for 100 rupees. Okay? And he expects it to sell out by 4 o'clock or so in the evening, 200 loaves. But by 11 o'clock in the morning, 200 loaves are sold out. The demand is so much. And people who bought on the first day, they liked it so much, they came back on the second day and they told their friends also. Their friends also came. So 200 loaves are sold out. Okay? Now, on the second day, every loaf of bread that he made, the cost of the loaf of bread, the cost of production of the loaf of bread on the second day per loaf was less than the cost of bread per loaf on the first day. Why? Why? But how is mass production involved? Okay, explain that.
When you are buying things in loads,
Yeah.
very large quantity, you can get it at a cheaper price.
Yeah, but
You are paying the same amount of labor.
yeah.
Okay. Working hours may be similar. You'll have to expand the capacity of the oven, or you'll have to increase the baking hours.
Yeah.
But the labor cost will be the same because he is employing the labor for the whole day.
He's doing it himself, only himself, yeah.
But the cost of the products will come down.
Okay. Cost of the products, because you're saying you as a buyer of the flour, you're paying less money for the flour. That's possible. You might be able to. But going from 100 to 200, it's not such a big change. If you're going from 100 to 1000, maybe there's a big change, you can get it a bit cheaper. But from 100 to 200, the cost of the material might be a bit lower, but not significantly lower. But the cost per loaf can be significantly lower. So you're on the right path, but would someone else like to build up on that explanation?
The capacity of the oven was, I think, 200.
No, the capacity of the oven is 1000 per day.
Yeah, so now it is 200.
200.
In the same energy consumption, they are producing more breads.
Okay.
So energy consumption.
But the energy consumption is proportional to how many loaves you put. Okay, so the energy, if you put 100 loaves, you'll use, let's say, 1000 watts of energy. If you put 200 loaves, you'll use 200 watts of energy. So the energy consumption is proportionate to the number of loaves. The material cost is also more or less proportional, maybe 5%, 3% lower, proportionate to the cost.
Time also taken as an
Time is a cost of, but he's one guy. Anil is one guy, and it's whatever profit he makes, and whatever time he puts in, he puts in. Okay, so there are two costs involved in making a loaf of bread. One is the fixed cost and one is the variable cost. Okay? The variable, yes?
Sir, advertisement cost.
Advertisement cost.
In the second day, he's not advertising.
He's not advertising. No, he's still advertising actually. Because he wants to actually be able to sell up to 1000 per day. So there are two costs of production. One is a fixed cost and the other is a variable cost. Variable cost is the cost of flour, for the cost of wheat, the cost of butter, cost of every ingredient is a variable cost. Yes, you might get some lower cost if you buy higher, but not between 100 to 200, the cost might not change much. 100 to 1000, the cost might change. Okay, but amount of flour is the same, whether it's the first 100 loaves or the second 100 loaves. The amount of flour is the same. The cost, that's the variable cost. Okay, if you buy, it will be approximately the same per loaf. But there is a fixed cost. The fixed cost is the rent that he's paying for the oven and the rent that he's paying for the shop. So the rent that he's paying for the oven is 5,000 rupees a month. The rent that he's paying for the store is 20,000 rupees a month. So 25,000 rupees per day is the fixed cost. Okay? So assuming he bakes every day. First day he baked 100 loaves, right? So the fixed cost of the 100 loaves is 25,000 rupees divided by 30 for that one day. So the fixed cost of that each of those loaves is very, very high. The variable cost, and the second day, the fixed cost per loaf becomes half. Okay, so the fixed cost per loaf becomes half on the second day. So even though the variable cost remains almost the same, the fixed cost becomes half. On the third day, he produces 400 loaves. So on the third day, the fixed cost becomes 1/4 the fixed cost on the first day. So if the cost of production is the sum total per loaf of the fixed cost plus the variable cost. So on the third day, when he's making 400 loaves, the cost of production is very much lower than on the first day. Okay? Now people were buying the bread at 100 rupees on day one. And the second day he makes 200. Even though his cost has gone down, he's able to sell at 100. Profits have gone up. On the third day he makes 400. And he's still able to sell at rupees 100 per loaf. So his cost has gone down even more and his profits have gone even higher. So if you look just at the cost of production, that is the concept called economies of scale. Okay, economies of scale. The more you produce, the cost of production of the next highest number. If you are making n number of goods, the n plus 1th good the cost of production of the n plus 1 will be cheaper because of economies of scale. Okay, so it's a very simple concept, but it works out very, very well in cities as they are growing bigger. Okay, and I'll get to that in a second. So economies of scale is something that is very, very good. It helps firms, companies that are producing something, it helps them produce a good and produce it at a cheaper price. It helps cities also. So if a city sets up a water treatment plant with a capacity to treat water for 1 lakh people, and the city has currently, let's say the city has a population of 50,000, so half a lakh is 50,000, yeah, 50,000 people. The city wants to grow to 1 lakh people. So the cost of production of water can be shared by people. The city passes on the cost of production to, in an ideal case, passes on the cost of production to the residents, in an ideal case. Doesn't happen in India. Cost of production is much higher than cost of production is much higher than what every person pays, okay, in India and many other countries. But in an ideal situation, the city will pass on the cost of production to the consumer. So the city will try to get to, try to take advantage of economies of scale. So their cost of production per capita comes down. So they will try to produce, they will try to increase the population to 1 lakh. The cost of production comes down. Just like Anil will try to increase his production to 1,000 loaves a day, because that's when he maximizes his economies of scale. Right? Then his capital cost will be very small, fixed cost will be very small when he's at 1,000. Right? Once he hits 1,000, then you have this notion of diseconomies of scale. Because after he goes from 1,000 to say 1,100, 1,100 loaves, now he has to get a bigger space and a bigger oven. And then his costs will go up. And his per unit fixed cost will go up. So and if the cost of production of the 1,000th loaf was rupees 20, the cost of production of the 1,001th loaf would be rupees 30. Okay, so his profits will go down. So this is called diseconomies of scale, because after 1,000 loaves, he has to expand his oven and expand his space as well. Okay, so cities, the same thing happens to cities. And one of the diseconomies of scale that all of us experience in a city, in a big city, is traffic congestion. Okay, when a new road is built, the ideal, the volume of traffic on that road might be 1,000 vehicles per hour in a new road. But for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, it will be less than 1,000 vehicles per hour per day on that new road. Per day. And then over a period of time, the number of people using the road keeps increasing. And after a certain time, there are 1,500 or 2,000 people using that road. And that is diseconomies of scale. Now, this urban areas, that means a grouping of. But this economic concept of agglomeration is of different kinds of goods and services coming together in an urban area. So let me go back to Anil's bakery. Okay, Anil has this bakery, and Anil makes only loaves of bread. But these loaves of bread, when customers come to his store and they buy a loaf of bread, they cannot just carry that loaf of bread like that, right? It has to be covered either in a paper bag or let's call it paper bag, okay? In a paper bag, not a plastic bag. Plastic is not good. So in a paper bag. And he's doing organic products, so he won't have a plastic bag. He'll have a recycled paper bag made from recycled leaves, okay? And he's looking for some producer. So his store is in Patna, in downtown Patna. And he finds that there is this guy who's 15 or 20 kilometers away from downtown Patna. So can someone name a place that is 15 kilometers from downtown Patna? Small place on periphery of Patna? Masodi. Oh, okay, Masodi. No, one name. So he's in Masodi. It's 20 kilometers from downtown Patna, and he finds one person there named Arjun. So Arjun is making these special paper bags he's taking these leaves that fall from trees, and from that he's doing something with it, and he's making this paper bags. And each of these paper bags, he says, when Anil goes to him on the first day and says, I want 100 paper bags, he said, I'll make each of these paper bags for you for 2 rupees. One paper bag for 2 rupees. His cost of production for one paper bag, Arjun's cost of production for one paper bag is 1 rupee. And then he has to transport that 1 rupee paper bag to Anil's bakery. And it costs him about 0.5 rupees more. So the total cost is actually 1.5 for Arjun to produce one paper bag and deliver it to Anil. But he's charging him 2, okay, 2 rupees. So his profit per bag is 50.5, half a rupee per bag. And he delivers it to Anil, and Anil uses it. The next day Anil calls him and says, I want 200 paper bags, so you must give me some discount. So Arjun says, yes, I'll give you a discount. Each paper bag will be 90 paise instead of 1 rupee. 0.9 rupees instead of 1 rupee. But the cost of transportation is still the same. So it now becomes 1.4. Cost of production and delivery is 1.4. And the cost, why is he doing it for 0.9 now? Because of economies of scale. For he's having scale economies, and he's transferring some of the scale economy profits to Anil by giving him at a lower price. Then it goes from 200 bags to 400 bags. When he goes to 400 bags, Arjun says, I'll give you each bag for 0.75 rupees. Okay, big discount, 0.75 rupees. So the total cost of the bag is now 0.75 plus 0.5, 1.25. So because of the scale economies, Arjun is passing on the scale economies to Anil. But when it comes to 400 bags, Arjun says, you know what, every day before Anil came, I used to make 100 bags. Now that Anil is my customer, I am making 400 bags for Anil only, and only 100 bags for other people. And for each of the bags that I am giving to Anil, my transportation cost is 50.5 rupees. So he looks around for a place near Anil's bakery, and he finds a small place near Anil's bakery where he can rent for the same price as the original space that he had 15 kilometers away from the center of the city. And he says, now I'm going to locate next to Anil's, very close to Anil's bakery. Okay? And when he locates very close to Anil's bakery, what happens is his transportation cost is gone. Okay? So now what has happened is Arjun has moved next to Anil, and Arjun, when he gives this bag at 0.75 per bag, his cost is now only 0.75 and his profit has gone up. He's still selling it for some around 2 rupees or so per bag. Maybe he's given some discount, but his profit has gone up because he has co-located with Anil. Okay? Now, when you have a bag like that, you cannot just have a bag that is just like that, right? You want to tie it with a piece of string or a piece of plastic. But this is an organic company, so you won't have a piece of plastic. So you'll have a nice, string that looks like this, and you'll tie it with that string. But Anil doesn't make the string, nor does Arjun. But Amar makes it. Okay, Amar makes this, and Amar makes it somewhere far away from the city. But by a similar process, Amar also moves next to Anil's factory, Anil's bakery. And soon, Anil, Arjun, and Amar are very close to each other. They are all integrated because their production is related. They have forward-backward linkages, and they are all related, and they co-locate. And because they co-locate, all of them have economies of scale, but they also have, because of the co-location, economies of agglomeration. And therefore, the cost of production of a loaf of bread plus paper plus this thread comes down. Okay? So that's economies of agglomeration. And so bigger cities are able to deliver products, a wider range of products, produce them at lower cost because of economies of scale and economies of agglomeration. Okay? So those are two economic concepts. Any questions about these concepts? And this explains a whole bunch of things what happens in cities, okay? Many things that happen in cities are explained by this and the other two concepts that I'm going to explain in a minute. Any questions on this? No? Yes, sir.
Sir, smaller countries, if they can't export their product,
Yeah.
say very small countries that, so how do the economy of scale means if they are not able to export them?
I will come to that. I will come to that when we discuss that last concept there, specialization. I'll come to that. Yeah, we can have a tea break. Yeah, let's have a tea break. It's a good point in the discussion to have a tea break. And after that, I'll actually go into the last concept, specialization, and discuss that, and that will answer your, hopefully, your question will really relate to that point. So we're supposed to end at around 3:30 or so, right? 3:45? We'll shoot a little bit over. Is that okay? Yeah.
After tea, we can start and then.
I'll finish in 15-20 minutes after tea.
Yeah, I think that would be okay.